They never let me own anything. Not my grades, not my awards, not even my name. When I bought an apartment, they wanted half of that too. Update 1. The dinner that changed everything. We shared a room for 18 years. Shared clothes, shared friends, shared birthdays. Not because we chose to, but because they designed it that way. Individuality wasn't a right in my family. It was a rebellion. My apartment is my revolution. I need to start from the beginning so you understand how I ended up sitting across a dinner table from my own family while they explained, with complete sincerity, why I should hand over half of everything I'd built to someone who had built nothing. My twin brother and I are identical. Same face, same height, same voice. Growing up, people mixed us up constantly, and our parents leaned into it like it was charming. We were never boys. We were the twins. A unit. A matching set. A brand. Same room. Same bedspread pattern. Same backpacks for school. If I wanted blue sneakers, my brother got blue sneakers too, because it would be unfair if one of us had something the other didn't. If I got an A on a spelling test, my parents praised us both at dinner. The twins are doing so well in school. I remember once, in 4th grade, I won 2nd place in a science fair. My project, my research, my hours at the kitchen table gluing things to a poster board while my brother played video games in our shared room. My parents put the ribbon on a shelf they called the Twins' Achievement Wall. Right next to his participation trophy from a soccer league he quit after 3 weeks. I didn't realize how damaging this was until much later. At the time, it just felt like love. Suffocating, shapeless, boundaryless love. The divergence happened when we turned 18. I wanted more. More than the shared room, the shared identity, the shared existence. I got a job bussing tables at a restaurant downtown. I enrolled in community college and went to classes in the morning, worked in the evening, studied on the bus in between. My brother enrolled at the same community college because that's what we did, the same things. He dropped out after 2 semesters. Said it wasn't the right fit. Got a retail job. Quit. Got another one. Quit. Started talking about becoming a streamer. Never bought a microphone. At 23, I had an associate's degree and a junior position at a logistics company. He had a part-time job at a game store and a collection of figurines that took up most of his rented room. But my parents still called us the twins. Still gave us identical amounts of birthday money. Still said, we're so proud of our boys, in that way that sanded down every edge until we were the same smooth, featureless shape. I saved aggressively. For 7 years, I saved like my identity depended on it, because in a way it did. I skipped vacations. Drove a car that made sounds a car shouldn't make. Ate meals I meal prepped on Sundays in containers that stained orange from too much pasta sauce. Every dollar I didn't spend was a brick in a wall I was building between who they said I was and who I actually am. At 27, I bought a small apartment. $133,000. Nothing fancy. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a kitchen with enough counter space to chop vegetables without rearranging everything first. A living room that got good light in the afternoon. My name on the deed. Just my name. I can't describe what that felt like. For 27 years, nothing had been only mine. Not my room, not my achievements, not my birthday cake. And suddenly I had 4 walls and a door that locked, and every single inch of it belonged to me. I chose the couch. I chose where to put the bookshelf. I hung a print on the wall that my brother would have hated, and I loved it more because of that. I wasn't the twin in that apartment. I was just me. A person. Whole and separate and real. When I told my parents, my mom said, "That's nice, sweetie." Then, without a breath in between, "Maybe you can help your brother find something similar." I knew what that meant. I'd always known what that meant. My brother's situation at 29 was roughly the same as it had been at 23. A rented room in a shared house. Part-time retail. No savings, because money went to games, collectibles, takeout, conventions. Not struggling, exactly. Not homeless. Just motionless. Still calling me every day out of habit, the way you keep scratching a spot that healed years ago. Still asking to borrow money. Still using my Netflix password. Still saying, "we," when he meant me. Then came the dinner. My parents invited the twins over. I should have known something was off from the phrasing. They didn't say, "Come over for dinner." They said, "We need to have a family discussion." When I arrived, my brother was already there, sitting at the table, unusually quiet. My parents were fidgeting the way they did when they'd rehearsed something. My mom had made pot roast, which she only made when she was trying to cushion bad news in comfort food. We ate. The conversation was thin. How's work? Fine. How's the apartment? Good. Your brother found a new game he likes. That's great. All of it preamble. After dinner, my dad cleared his throat. The sound of a man about to deliver a speech he'd practiced in the bathroom mirror. Boys, we need to talk about the apartment situation. I noticed the word. Situation. Not your apartment. Not the apartment. The apartment situation. Already framed as a problem. Already positioned as something that needed solving. My mom folded her hands. You're twins. You've always been equal. But now there's an imbalance. One of you has an apartment and the other doesn't. That's not how twins work. My dad nodded. We think you should put your brother's name on the apartment. 50-50. You're twins. What's yours is his and what's his is yours. That's how it's always been. My brother was nodding before my dad finished the sentence. It makes sense, bro. We've always shared everything. This is just the next thing to share. My mom reached across the table like she was smoothing a wrinkle. It's not fair that one twin has a home and the other doesn't. You came into this world together. You should go through it together. I sat there. The pot roast sat in my stomach like a stone. I looked at the three of them, my parents with their practiced concern, my brother with his eager nodding, and I realized they had discussed this beforehand. Planned it. Coordinated it. This wasn't a spontaneous suggestion. This was an intervention. For the crime of owning something alone. You want me to give him half my apartment because we're twins? My dad held up a hand. Not give. Sure. Like you've always shared. We shared a room because you put us in the same room. We shared clothes because you bought us the same clothes. We shared a life because you designed it that way. I didn't choose to share everything. You forced it. Now I've built something on my own and you want to force sharing again. My mom's face crumpled. We didn't force anything. We gave you equality. That's a gift. Equality isn't giving two people the same thing regardless of effort. That's not equality, that's erasure. The word hung in the air. I hadn't planned to say it. But it was the right word, and once it was out, the rest followed. For 18 years, you treated us as one person. Same everything. You never asked what I wanted that was different from what he wanted. You never let me be me without being half of us. My apartment is the first thing in my life that's mine. Not ours. Not the twins. Mine. And you want to take that away too. Update 2. The fracture. My brother looked at me the way you look at someone who's just spoken a foreign language. Not angry. Confused. Genuinely, deeply confused. Bro, I'm not trying to take anything. I just thought, we're twins. We share. That's who we are. That's who you want to be because sharing means you get half of what I earn. I watched that land. Watched his expression shift from confusion to something raw. I pressed forward because I needed him to hear it, even if it hurt. When's the last time you shared something with me? When's the last time you had something I wanted half of? Sharing only goes one direction, from me to you. That's not sharing. That's taking with a nicer name. He didn't have an answer. Not because he was selfish, I want to be clear about that. My brother isn't a villain. He's a product. My parents built a system where my effort benefited us both, and he grew up inside that system believing it was natural. Believing it was love. He genuinely didn't understand what he was asking for, because to him, asking for half of my apartment felt exactly the same as reaching into our shared dresser for a shirt. It was all the same drawer. But it wasn't. It hadn't been for a long time. He got emotional. His voice cracked in that way that made me feel like I was 11 again and he'd skinned his knee at the park. That's not fair. I've always been there for you. We're brothers, twins, the closest bond possible. You want to throw that away over an apartment. I'm not throwing away a bond. I'm establishing a boundary. For the first time in 29 years, I'm saying, this is mine. If our bond can't survive me owning something independently, then the bond was never real. It was just dependency. My dad's tone shifted. The rehearsed calm gave way to something authoritative. The dad voice. When we raised you boys, we raised you to share. To be equal. To support each other. What you're doing goes against everything this family believes in. What you call equality, I call erasure. I didn't exist as an individual in this family until I bought that apartment. Every achievement was ours. Every birthday was shared. Every milestone was divided. I wasn't a person, I was half of a pair. My apartment is the first time I'm whole. I won't cut it in half. My mom played the card I knew she'd play. She'd been saving it. When you were born, you came into this world holding each other. The doctor said he'd never seen twins so connected. And now you won't share an apartment with your other half. I was a baby. I didn't choose to hold his hand. You chose the narrative. You built the story of the inseparable twins, and I've been living inside that story for 29 years. My apartment is me writing my own story. Finally. She cried. Of course she cried. Because in her mind, she'd given us the most beautiful gift, togetherness, and I was handing it back like it was broken. She didn't understand that it was. That it had always been. My parents left the room. To regroup, to whisper in the kitchen, to do whatever parents do when the script goes wrong. And in that brief quiet, my brother dropped the performance. Not that he'd been performing exactly. More like the public version of himself, the eager, nodding twin, fell away, and underneath was someone smaller and more frightened than I'd expected. His voice went low. I always knew you'd leave me behind. Something in my chest contracted. I didn't leave you behind. I moved forward. You could have two. Same parents, same school, same starting point. I worked and you didn't. That's not me leaving. That's you staying. Not everyone can be like you. You never tried to be like you. You were too comfortable being half of me. Why build your own life when your twin's life counts as yours too? He didn't argue. He just looked at the table. And for the first time, I saw him not as my twin, not as my other half, not as the person I'd been fused to since before I had language. I saw him as a 29-year-old man who had never been required to be his own person, sitting in the wreckage of a system that had finally, mercifully, broken. I drove home that night and sat in my apartment in the dark for a long time. I could still hear my mother crying. Could still see my brother's face. Could still feel the weight of 29 years of enforced togetherness pressing against the walls I'd built. My apartment felt quieter than usual. Not peaceful. Just quiet. Update 3. The pattern and the name. In the weeks after the dinner, I started doing something I'd never done before. I looked back. Not with nostalgia, but with clarity. Every time I had achieved something independently growing up, the family had absorbed it. Collectivized it. I got an A on a test. Parents praised the twins at dinner. I won a spot in an advanced reading group. Parents told the neighbors, the twins are excelling. I got accepted into a summer math program. They signed my brother up too, even though he didn't want to go, and spent the whole 2 weeks playing cards in the back of the classroom while I worked on equations at the front. My individual achievements were never allowed to be individual. They were redistributed. My success became our success. My effort was translated into collective identity before I could even hold it in my own hands. No wonder my brother expected the apartment. He'd been conditioned his entire life to believe that what I built belonged to both of us. That wasn't malice. That was programming. I started seeing a therapist. Not because of the dinner, I'd been thinking about it for a while, but the dinner gave me the push. First session, I laid it all out. The shared room, the shared grades, the shared identity. The science fair ribbon on the twins shelf. The apartment demand. My therapist listened carefully and then said a word I'd never heard before. Enmeshment. She explained it to me. Enmeshment is when family boundaries dissolve to the point where individual identities can't form properly. Where one person's feelings, achievements, and identity become inseparable from another's. Where separation feels like betrayal because the family system depends on fusion. My parents had created an enmeshed system. Not out of cruelty. Out of love, or what they believed was love. They thought treating us identically was fairness. They thought merging our identities was closeness. They thought erasing our differences was protecting us from competition or jealousy. But what they actually did was prevent two separate human beings from learning who they were apart from each other. I broke free because I had something inside me, some stubborn streak, that drove me to work, to save, to build. My brother didn't break free because the system worked for him. He got half of everything without earning it. He got praised for my grades. He got credit for my effort. Why would he leave a system that gave him everything for nothing? The therapist said something that stayed with me for days. Your parents designed a system where you couldn't exist without him. Then they wondered why he can't exist without you. They created the dependency and now they want you to maintain it, this time with real estate. It clicked so hard I almost laughed. Armed with this understanding, I asked to meet my parents without my brother. Neutral territory, a coffee shop near their house. They came looking nervous. defensive before I'd said a word. I was calm. I'd rehearsed this too, in my own way. I've been seeing a therapist. And I've been thinking a lot about how we grew up. My mom stiffened. My dad crossed his arms. You raised us as one person. I know you thought it was love. I know you thought making everything equal was protecting us. But it wasn't equal. It was erasure. I wasn't allowed to be different. My achievements were given to both of us. My identity was merged with his. And my apartment is the first thing that's only mine, and your immediate instinct was to split it. Do you see the pattern? My mom started crying. Quieter this time. Less dramatic. Like she was hearing something she'd known but hadn't wanted to name. My dad was defensive. We did our best. Twins are special. Everyone says so. The books say so. Twins are two separate people. You made us one. And now one of us can't function independently because he was never required to. My dad opened his mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. So what do you want us to do? I want you to stop saying, the twins. I want you to see us as two different people with two different lives. And I want you to stop asking me to sacrifice my independence to maintain a system that was never fair to begin with. My mom reached for my hand across the table. I never wanted to hurt you. I know. But you did. And you hurt him worse, because at least I learned how to be a person on my own. He never had to learn that. And now he's 29 and he's just starting. Update 4. The long middle. The next 6 months were the hardest of my life, and also the most honest. My brother didn't speak to me for 3 weeks after the dinner. Not out of anger, exactly. More like shock. The way you go quiet after someone rearranges the furniture in a room you've lived in your whole life. Everything was the same, but nothing was where he expected it to be. When he finally called, his voice was different. Smaller. I've been thinking about what you said. Okay. About sharing only going one direction. About me never trying to be me. A long pause. I don't even know what that means. Being me. I've always been us. I felt something crack inside my ribs. Not sympathy exactly. Something more complicated. Like watching someone realize they've been sleepwalking and they're standing somewhere they don't recognize. That's the point, I said. You never had to figure that out because they never made you. And I should have said something sooner. But I was too busy trying to survive the same system. He didn't respond for a while. Then, I don't want your apartment. I know. I mean, I did want it. When Dad brought it up, it felt right. Like obviously. Of course. We share. That's what we do. Another pause. But hearing you explain why it wasn't, I heard it. It took a while. But I heard it. That conversation didn't fix everything. It didn't fix anything, really. But it opened a door that had been painted shut since before we were born. Over the following months, small things shifted. He got a full-time job. Not a career, stocking shelves at a warehouse, but full-time. 40 hours. Benefits. He told me about it in a tone I'd never heard from him. Not excited, not proud exactly. More like surprised. Surprised that he could do it. Surprised that he could hold something on his own without it needing to be split in half. My parents were slower. My mom called me one evening, her voice careful, like she was walking across a frozen lake. I was looking at old photos today. I noticed something. In every single picture, you're both wearing the same outfit. Even at 15, 16. I did that. A breath. I didn't realize I was still doing it. I didn't know what to say. So I just said, yeah. Your father and I talked. We're going to try to see you separately. It's hard. You look the same your whole lives and we leaned on that. It was easier. Easier for who? She didn't answer. But I heard her thinking. My dad never had a big revelation moment. That's not who he is. But he stopped saying, the twins. Started saying, the boys. Then eventually just our individual relationship, your brother or my son. Small grammar. Enormous shift. Update 5. The visit. 1 year after the dinner. My brother came to my apartment for the first time. He'd never been inside. In the 12 months since I'd drawn that boundary, he'd driven past it, I'm sure. But he'd never knocked. He knocked. I let him in and watched him take it in. The living room with the print he would have hated. The kitchen with the orange-stained containers still in the dish rack. The bookshelf organized the way I liked, not the way we liked. The couch I'd chosen alone. He walked through slowly. Touched the walls, not dramatically, just lightly. Like he was confirming they were real. Opened the fridge, looked inside, closed it. The kind of small, domestic curiosity you'd show in a museum of someone else's life. It's nice, bro, really nice. Not jealous. Not entitled. Not angling for anything. Just acknowledging. Something had shifted behind his eyes over the past year. Something I couldn't quite name but could feel. He sat on the couch. Looked around again. How'd you choose this neighborhood? A question about building. Not about taking. I looked at commute times and grocery store proximity. Boring stuff. What about the mortgage? How does that work? Like, the rates and everything. I almost dropped the glass of water I was pouring. In 29 years, my brother had never asked me how anything worked. He'd asked me to share the results of how things worked. He'd asked for access to things I'd built. But he had never, not once, asked about the process. The labor. The mechanics. You thinking about buying something? He shrugged. Maybe. Someday. I don't know. I just want to understand how it works. For myself. For myself. 2 words he had never put together in that order in his entire life. After he left, I sat in the quiet. My apartment. My space. My life. Not shared. Not split. Not ours. Just mine. It felt strange, the way it always did. But it also felt right, the way it was starting to more and more. The aftermath. I want to be honest about something. This story doesn't have a tidy ending. My brother isn't suddenly thriving. He's not buying an apartment next month. He's working full-time and paying his rent on time and asking questions about how things work, and for him, at 29, after a lifetime of learned helplessness, that's a revolution as big as mine. My parents are adjusting. They slip sometimes. My mom still says, the twins, when she's tired or emotional or telling a story from when we were kids. My dad still buys us the same Christmas presents sometimes, though last year he got me a book on home improvement and my brother a gift card, and the fact that they were different felt like a bigger gift than either object. We talk weekly now, my brother and I. Not daily. The conversations are different. He talks about his life, not our life. What happened at his job? A show he watched. A girl at the warehouse he's thinking about asking out. Small, individual, specific things. Things that belong to him and only him. He said something last week that I keep turning over. I think I was scared to be one person. Being half of 2 people meant if I failed, it wasn't all on me. If I succeeded, I didn't have to carry it alone. Being just me is terrifying. I told him I understood. Because I do. Being singular after a lifetime of plural is disorienting in ways I still can't fully articulate. I still catch myself saying, we, when I mean, I. Still feel phantom guilt when I do something alone. Still hear my mom's voice saying, the twins, like we're a brand, not people. But I'm learning. And surprisingly, so is he. Parents said, equality, but meant erasure. Equal birthday money doesn't erase different work ethics. Equal upbringing doesn't erase different choices. Equal treatment doesn't produce equal outcomes. They confused fairness with sameness and now they're slowly, painfully learning the difference. We're identical on the outside. Same face, same height, same voice. People still mix us up. But inside, we were always different, they just never let us be. I was the twin who worked. He was the twin who waited. I was the twin who built. He was the twin who expected to receive. For 29 years, the family treated my labor as his birthright. My apartment ended that. Not with anger, with a boundary. The first boundary either of us ever had. It's strange being singular after a lifetime of plural. But he asked about mortgage rates yesterday. Not to share mine, to understand how to get his own. That question is worth more than any half of any apartment. Because it means he's finally starting to see himself. Not as my twin. Not as my other half. Just as himself. We came into this world together. We'll probably leave it far apart. And for the first time in our lives, that's okay. More than okay. It's necessary.